Welcome to Backyard Philosophy, a podcast where a couple friends grab some cold ones, sit around the fire, and talk about science, philosophy, and history. Crack one open, sit back, and get a good laugh as we discuss everything from automation to why the meaning of life is 42.
You know that weird uncle who suddenly got rich off Bitcoin after you'd been making fun of him for years? Well, that's right. We're going to be talking about Bitcoin, and we're going to be probably just as weird as your weird uncle. So grab yourself a drink and listen to us try and explain this phenomenon that's sweeping across the nation, world, country, whatever you want to call it. Before we get into too much of the history, what it is now, where it's going, who's trying to regulate it. Mike, how you doing? What are you drinking?
Doing pretty good. I'm drinking some Balacoon's bourbon, kind of one of my go-tos besides Buffalo Trace. And how about you, my friend? What are you drinking? How you doing?
I'm doing great, and I'm drinking some Coors Light, so I don't want to give anyone false ideas about how much I know about Bitcoin.
Well, hopefully it won't be all about Bitcoin today. This kind of applies, hopefully, this episode to multiple cryptocurrencies. But since we're talking about Bitcoin, a little bit of the history. Bitcoin was the godfather. It kind of was the one that started cryptocurrency. It was created by a Satoshi Nakamoto, launched in January 2009 in response of the 2008 financial crisis. And since the creation of Bitcoin, more than 6,700 cryptocurrencies have been created. The second, probably most prominent one, which has a very interesting future, in my opinion, which we'll get into later, is Ethereum, made in 2013 by, sorry if I mispronounced this is made by a Russian immigrants that moved to Canada son. His name is Valentin Buterin. He is, I think, 24, 25 at the time of this recording, and he has made the second most successful cryptocurrency, which at the time of this recording, Bitcoin is worth about $33,000 and Ethereum is worth about $2,300.
And so that's no longer relevant because it's been 30 seconds. I believe the word you're looking for, Mike, is Ethereum.
Ethereum? That's how you pronounce it? I see. I know math, do not know how to speak. But for that few living underneath a rock, cryptocurrency is a digital or virtual currency that is secured by cryptography. Cryptography is the practice of securing and having secure communication in the presence of a third party. So I talk to Nick talks to me, and we don't have Uncle Sam listening to our conversation, which I feel like more cryptography is needed, Nick. That's another conversation for another time. But yeah, cryptocurrency, the very beginning, Bitcoin, was started because of a financial global crisis, and man or team, we're not quite sure, because we don't exactly know who this Nakamoto is. He's remained anonymous, if he's still alive today, is made it so as a substitute currency for the entire world.
Yeah, and he designed it in a way that the entire world would be comfortable with, pretty similar to gold.
Don't jump too far ahead with me.
Sorry.
No. I was just wondering. The gold analogy is a really good analogy on how cryptocurrency works. Which I don't know if you have any more history, Nick, or I could just start jumping into how crypto works.
No, that's pretty much all I had, too. So starting to how it works.
So crypto is similar to any fiat money: the dollar, euro, ruble. It's made up. There's no central bank, and it's cross-checking its transactions is all done by the public. There's no central government, no central organization checking the transactions. The cross-checking and verifying of the transactions come from you, the listener, other people that, well, they end up making themselves rich, like people's uncles, like Nick said, and it's called blockchaining. A blockchain is pretty much, in simplified words, a international ledger. It's a ledger of digital currency. So cryptos, they have a key, right? This key is a dual identifier. The key to say, hey, anyone reading this in the ledger, this is my username information, and the key to say, hey, this is, I can prove myself, so it's not someone trying to falsely be me. And it's really nice because that way Nick can't pretend to be me and I can't pretend to be Nick and steal each other's Bitcoins. This being said, they do have some issues, which I'll address later in the podcast. And for you wondering, these keys, they're not physical keys. They're just a mathematical protocol to prove who you are. So, a series of numbers, equation you have to solve, etc., etc. And how Bitcoin does it is in a hash function, specifically SHA-256. The SHA stands for Secure Hash Function. The 256 is 256-bit, like the bit in your computer, the bit in your cell phone, that kind of bit. And Ethereum uses Ethash, which is a proof of work algorithm, so a little bit different. And for those wondering, a hash function is a math function. For example, SciShow on YouTube did a fantastic example on this. You have a function, 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 equals 10. Well, the 1, 2, 3, 4 is your input, the 10 is the output. On the ledger, so one of the keys, you would put a 10. This is just all symbolism at this moment. It's much more complicated than that, but I think it's a good analogy. The 10, the output, you put on there, and you would hold on to the input. And so you could verify who you are using the input to get that correct number. Now you might be saying, well, why can't you use any number? 5 times 2. Well, it won't match. You need the round peg to go through the round hole. And the cool part is you can have simple outputs like 10, but have dozens and dozens and dozens of different inputs. So think about how many different ways there are to get to 10. Just simple mathematics. And these aren't complicated math equations that are used in Bitcoin, but just simple math equations. You got 2 times 5, 3 plus 7. You got 1 plus 2 plus 7, like all these different variables. So it makes it much, much harder to crack. Now, people will run these hash functions to verify the transactions of the Bitcoin, the cryptocurrency, whatever cryptocurrency being used. These people are called miners. No, not since we're talking about uncles, not that kind of miners, but miners, miners. And they run the mathematics and create a new page in the ledger being the blockchain. And every time a new page is added, it's a new block. And you start to trace all these blocks, transactions, and that's where you get the blockchain. All the blocks start piecing together and adding each other. So you can literally identify from the very beginning of when Bitcoin started what transactions have been made. Now, granted, you might not know who did it, but you just know what the transactions were made and maybe their username, not necessarily who they are. These miners, again, not those kind of miners, these miners are processing the power to check and verify and keep track of the ledger. And in turn, every block made or helped made, 12.5 Bitcoin is created, adding to the market. And the miners who help create a new block get a piece of that action. So say there's 10 more pages added to the ledger. That's 10 more blocks. That means 12.5 more Bitcoins are entered into the world. That way, the more people who enter the market, it helps increase and keep up with the inflation of people adding to the market. This is also important to note. It's not universal of creating 12.5 Bitcoins. Slowly, after a set amount, the amount of Bitcoins released decreases. Currently, every 100,000 blocks, the amount of blocks get cut in half. So in a few years, I think it's like 2025, the 12.5 Bitcoins released into the world to help, calibrate for new market growth, new inflation, will be cut to 6.25 coins for every block instead of 12.5 that's currently at. And eventually, I believe it's like year 2040, there'll be no more Bitcoins introduced into the world. It will be solely, tips from the miners and transactions, not really anything more. And like Nick pointed out, which is I think a good point for Nick to take over, this is exactly pretty much how the world mimics gold trade and gold inventory. It's not that far different.
Yeah, and there's like you said, there will eventually be all the Bitcoins will be possessed by people, and so then it becomes finite, which should, it's similar to gold where you can't just make more. It's not, it's not like the US dollar where we can just print more. There's a finite number of Bitcoins out there.
Which oddly makes sense to me, Nick. I don't know if it makes sense to you, that maybe we shouldn't just constantly keep printing money, but
Yeah, but that's not how a lot of the world works, so we'll see. That's hypothetical. Who knows if we'll just keep inflating Bitcoin like we do other currencies. I don't know.
Well, hopefully we'll get into that later in the podcast, but overall, the explanation of using mathematical functions to keep track, ledgers, miners, that's all pretty similar across the board for cryptocurrency. Some noticeable difference between the big two, Bitcoin and, how do you pronounce it again, Nick? Ethereum?
Ethereum?
Ethereum. Is their block time and their smart features or contracts, depending on who you talk to. Bitcoin has a block time about 10 minutes, and Ethereum has about 12 to 15 seconds for their block time. Bitcoin has no smart contracts. Ethereum, you can have conditions of the contract. So if I task Nick to do this in X amount of time, he doesn't reach that time, he doesn't get the cryptocurrency. Like, I can have dotting the I's and crossing the T's in the contract for cryptocurrency. And block time is simply just the amount of time required to make another page in the ledger. That's all it is. Just how much time it takes to process that mathematical formula to add on to the ledger. And like I said, blockchains are publicly available to everyone. You can see all the transactions ever made by Bitcoins. Granted, you can't maybe see what they're for or exactly who they're to, but you can see the ledger. All transactions are recorded and available. And it's very important that, it's not just the honor system. If you check the math and you don't get it right, someone else will check it, get it right, and get the Bitcoins, and then you're kind of out of luck. I think it's important. The miners aren't physically doing the math problems themselves. They're using their computer's processing power to run mathematical formulas and algorithms to do it, and that's what the mining is. The mining is not physically getting into coal mine. It's using your computer to process information and dig away at it and get the correct answer. Miners tend to use either CPUs or ASIC. ASIC is just, for those unfamiliar, stands for application specific integrated circuits. And CPUs, I really hope everyone's familiar with their CPUs. It's kind of the brains of your computer or smart device that you may or may not be listening this to on.
Yeah. Something we talked about. So the actual number of Bitcoins that there will ever be is 21 million coins. And there's no limit on, so Ethereum is the network and Ether is like the coin. Ether is the coin used in the Ethereum network as the currency. There's no limit on that.
I also think it's important to note, I'm not sure if Ethereum does it, but I think Bitcoin might be trying to fight it. A lot of cryptocurrencies are kind of going against ASIC being that process, which is the application-specific integrated circuits. So with CPU, your computer and brains, you can do a lot with your computer. With ASIC devices, it's pretty much only for mining. It's just a slave. That's all it is. It's just dragging away, trying to chip away at that. And a lot of cryptocurrency makers and founders aren't exactly the happiest with it. So they're trying to make it kind of ASIC proof, which I'm not sure how I feel about that, but allowing it to be ASIC against allows a lot more private individuals, to be able to mine, which is a dual-edged sword, which I'm not sure how I feel. But with miners come a lot of issues. And again, not those kind of miners, just the Bitcoin miners, the crypto miners.
During the Me Too movement, it's important to specify what kind of miners you're talking about.
Oh, yeah. That's a problem I never thought I would actually have, but who knows? But the amount of energy and heat generated by mining. So for all those listening, I assume once in your lifetime you've had a laptop and it's gotten hot underneath, the computer's working hard, battery's taking energy, it gets hot. Well, that's a lot of electricity being drawn into your computer, your laptop. That's a lot of heat given off. Now imagine having 10,000 all in a warehouse going at once. Yeah, it's going to rack up the electricity bill and the cooling bill quite quickly. Hell, Bitcoin mining is currently responsible for 0.31% of the world's entire electricity usage. Now you might just say 0.31%, that's not a lot. 0.31% of the entire world. That's a huge amount of electricity being used for Bitcoin mining or just crypto mining.
Let's see, what else, what uses, what percentage of the world's electricity does Vegas use to light it up?
Well, I can't help you with Vegas, but in 2020, Bitcoin mining alone used as much power as the entire Czech Republic of all of 2020.
So how does that relate to how much power the Death Star uses?
Equal to so much power. Yeah, but entire businesses are built off just mining. In Iceland, a CEO, not quite sure what to call him, his entire job is just mining. He has warehouses with hundreds of thousands of ASICs or CPUs, not quite sure, mining for cryptocurrencies. I remember coming across this, I think it's in Maryland. The town had a law, way back law, like it should have been out of date, where the town can't increase the electricity bill because they use a hydro dam. So a bunch of miners moved there to, use ports of electricity, which is just draining the system. The system can't keep up with it. I believe in different countries and cities, entire powers have gone out because the amount of people drawing energy to keep mining. It's ridiculous on how much people are all in, but there's a lot of money on the Rhine. Like I said, one Bitcoin right now is about $33,000.
And there's 21 million of them out there for people to get.
Well, not exactly. That's a bit for later. It's actually going to piss you off, Nick, because it definitely pissed me off. But yeah, there's a lot of money up for grabs. But that's the reason. Again, a lot of heat being generated, a lot of computer parts being processed and made, which are unfortunately coming from like China and different countries, which are not necessarily the most ethical resources to be imported. That comes with a lot of issues, but a lot of people like crypto, a lot of people don't. Good thing about crypto is no more banks, no more central government, no exchange of currency. It's kind of useful, and it's also kind of anonymous. Bad things, it can be used for whatever you want. Yeah, I'm not really seeing that much of a downside of crypto, Nick. Maybe you can jump in here.
Well, so yeah, it's one thing that I've found is that it's not as it seems. Everyone always talks about how cryptocurrency is untraceable, but it seems like it's more traceable than people say it is, because every transaction is recorded, and they would just have to know, what your hash is. So it's, in a sense, they can track it. Now, will the government do that? That's another question. Most likely, if there's money out there, they're going to get it. I mean, let's be honest.
Even the Joker wasn't fool enough to take on the IRS.
No, exactly. No, I like you said, I like it, cutting out the banks, and it's all made up money anyway, right? So it's just a new made up money for us to play with.
See, that's what I thought, but apparently a lot of countries are just outright banning it. Just to name a few: Algeria, Bangladesh, Bolivia, Colombia, China, Cambodia, Ecuador, Egypt, Indonesia, Iran. The list goes on and on. It seems, I also noticed very similar with this list, a lot of these countries that are banning crypto, I wouldn't call exactly freedom-friendly countries, which I thought was very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, anything that's harder to control. It's easier to control dollars. You got some central banks that control most of the dollars moving around in the country. Something that's relatively new and unknown is not as easy to control. So yeah, I could see. I mean, that's exactly it's exactly why I don't know what's going to happen, right? Because we're not going to use a currency in the United States that the government doesn't recognize, because it's going to be a pain to pay taxes, and they're going to make it fucking difficult for us to do that because they want to be in control of everything. So that's why it's like I don't see it replacing the dollar anytime soon, because Uncle Sam's going to make it hard to do that.
It's one country that first wanted to ban it but reversed its direction, and was a country not expecting but is kind of all on board for cryptocurrency, is Russia. Russia is kind of in favor now of crypto. They're trying to heavily introduce crypto and the future of crypto creators and makers and miners in their country, which I thought was very interesting. Now, granted, you could make the argument that, well, Russia wants to use crypto to bypass other countries' sanctions, tariffs, etc., which is true. But the idea that Russia wants a currency that's harder to trace, because for those who don't know, here in America especially, every time you see those bill counters, they're rolling through like a Rolodex of money. They're not just counting how many bills they are. They're actually physically taking pictures of every serial number, so they can identify what state that serial number is in, etc. The amount of time and energy processed to keep track of every single bill and every transaction. And the one thing I want to point out is your banks aren't your protector for your transactions. Like, say sorry, Nick, I'm going to throw you under the bus here a little bit. This is a joke, but it might not be, but it's funny to me. If, say, Nick bought a dildo and Nick wanted to keep it a secret, but, the government wanted some dirt on him, they could ask the bank for his bank statements. Granted, that's what Nick purchased. That's his own private information. But the banks consistently, doesn't matter what bank it is, gives over that information. That's your transaction, your information that they just willingly gave away. Now,
I was told there would be discreet shipping.
yeah, but the banks that say they'll hide your information and stuff like that, it's hide their information to the public, not to the government. But with crypto, it's kind of across the board, they'll hide it too. Granted, there's always a way to see into it. Nothing will ever be perfect. But that was a big pill to me. No, not for buying dildos before you say it, Nick. I know where you're going. I just thought it was weird that Russia, who in the past I've seen want to be more controlative of the people, be on board with crypto. I thought that was really weird, and I'd like to get your opinion on how you feel about Russia kind of taking charge as a first world country, adopting and accepting crypto.
I mean, how much money or time and energy does Putin have invested in crypto? I'd imagine it all comes down to money. If they think there's a profit that they can make, if they're the first ones in, they think that's the way, and they're going to profit from it. It's probably it, right? It's probably money, I imagine. They think that they're going to get rich doing that. Or they have a bunch and they encourage their country to use it, drive the value up. I don't know. That's my thought. Or they have spent so much time trying to control people, they figured out that they can't. And they can come and teach our government something.
Bold statements by Nick, which I kind of like. And since I brought up bypassing sanctions and tariffs from other countries, yes, people have used cryptocurrency in the past for criminal activity. Yes, criminals use crypto to buy illegal things. But criminals also use cash. They also use credit cards and debits.
Are you fucking with me?
Yeah, what was it?
So you're telling me people launder money and they use cash, the same cash I use to purchase illegal things?
I thought you meant legal things, but yeah, sure, Nick. Isn't it like what every 9 out of 10 bills have cocaine traces on them or something like that?
I do love this country.
Yeah, no system is perfect. No system is clean. No system has not gotten its tail dirty going down the rabbit hole. Yeah.
So, and I don't think that we can blame the U.S. dollar for crime, but I also don't think we can blame cryptocurrency for crime. There might be another driver besides the face of the U.S. dollar or cryptocurrency for crime, but that's a whole nother thing.
Well, to dig myself in a little deeper hole, I also saw the argument that people have said that crypto is being used to fund terrorism. At the same time, all money in all countries have been used to fund terrorism in one form or another. There's no currency in the world that hasn't been somehow transactions switched through different accounts, different banks, that has gone to enemies of freedom. Like, no one's clean in this. Money's simply a tool. What you use it for is up to you.
Yeah, I mean, it's not, just think of money as another good in a barter system. It's bartering, except you're bartering with the value. Like Mike said, money is the tool that's used. It's not creating the crime. It's not exasperating the crime. Maybe it is. I don't think it is. People want power. They don't necessarily want money. They want the power that comes with money. I don't think you can blame crime on cryptocurrencies as much as you can blame it on any other normal currencies. You're going to get crime for a lot of different reasons, but one of them isn't, oh shit, the government can't track where my Bitcoin goes. Time to do crime.
Yeah, can't agree with you more there, my friend. And, well, I keep pulling out the flaws, and sorry if I'm talking too much, Nick. Feel free to interrupt me whenever. Crypto is not perfect. Just like the dollar bill can be forged, it can be turned into fake currency, it can be mass-produced by a different country if they get right press and plates. Crypto is no different. Crypto can be hacked. One attack that's kind of people are trying to figure out how to deal with are 51% attacks. I don't know if you came across this, Nick.
No, I did not.
So when you're creating blocks for blockchain, so you're creating pages for the ledger, there's a thing called the 51% attack. So kind of simple and also complicated at the same time. A 51% attack is when hackers produce more than 50% of the blockchain's computing power. So therefore, they become the majority, the controlling of the ledger. Just for, again, it's not for a long time, maybe 20 minutes, but allowing for them to become the controllers, become the majority, allows them to write the books how they want. So for a short time, they're allowing people to double spend. And double spend is simply I have $100 on this gift card, and I spend $100 on music and $100 on food. That's $200. It can't physically work. But using double pay, I can change the book to say it can work. So I only paid, so when I write in the ledger, I paid $100 for food. I will cross that out and erase it and say I paid $100 for music, even though I used that card twice. That's pretty much what double spending is.
But that doesn't seem that much different than writing a bad check or, sending a card that doesn't work, like a expired gift card kind of thing.
No, it's not. So, God, Nick, how many times have you've gone to the store with a bad coupon and it's like 2 days after the expiration date? Pisses me off every single time. So I can't imagine the same with cryptocurrency. But yeah, like you said, bad checks, they bounce and stuff like that. And unfortunately, another problem is, like gold, we can't just create it. With fiat money, like the dollar bill and the euro, we can just keep creating it. So a problem with cryptocurrency is it can get accidentally destroyed. And this is where I thought it might piss you off, Nick, because this pissed me off. An estimated 20% of all Bitcoin is non-retrievable, whether that be lost on a flash drive, water spilled on your computer and broke it, your dog chewed up your hard drive, whatever. 20% of all Bitcoin ever made right now is gone. It is never retrievable. It'll never see the light of day. It'll never come back. And that's worth about $13 billion right now. $13 billion just vanished. Can't get it back. Can't produce more. Which I thought was really weird and really scary.
Yeah. I mean, I think we've all heard the stories of someone who threw away a computer that had, like 100 Bitcoins on it in, 2013 or something. And now they're trying to find it. People are going through entire landfills looking for that computer because it's got so much fucking money on it right now.
Nick, you might not be the most tech-savvy person, but have you ever just thrown out a phone or a hard drive without cleaning it first or copying it and storing it?
No, but I have lost a bunch of shit throughout my life as being what some people would call forgetful. That's not true. What my wife would call forgetful.
Yeah, that, I don't know. That just seems so...
But I've never just been like, oh shit, did I throw out that, $400,000?
Oh, Nick, if you ever get to that point where you can lose $400,000 and not really care, don't forget about your good old friend. But yeah, that kind of scares me. Like, imagine over time, eventually, all right, say by the year we hit 2040, no more Bitcoins being made. I'm just using Bitcoin because it's kind of the one household name. No more Bitcoins being made. I imagine in the next, 100 years, so say 2140, there's going to be a lot more of that money lost, say if it lasts that long, is lost to water damage, to storms. It's not going to get replaced. So, yes, you can argue that the amount of Bitcoin is going to go up, but eventually, if we keep going on that path, there will be no more currency.
Yeah, but so the price would rise, though, to meet the demand of whatever is out there, if people are still using it by that time, which, let's be honest, it's probably going to change to something else by the time it's all gone. I don't know. Who knows? But that's almost, you can't just print more of it, which is the nice thing. Maybe you should be able to, to, like, we print, I don't know what percent, but a set amount of money every year just to account for lost or destroyed dollars. Here, 5%. So maybe they should do something like that. But what if some of that we thought was lost isn't lost, and then it just completely destroys the value? I don't know. That's an economic question, I guess.
Speaking with weird questions, it is technically possible for someone to collect all the Bitcoins in the world. You can't do that with any other currency, which I thought was very interesting.
So how would one go about doing this?
We'll say it doesn't have to be Bitcoin specifically. It could just be a cryptocurrency. You are in the foundation. You keep collecting all of them, you storing on a flash drive, not releasing them, not spending them. It'd be like a rare collectible, and you just keep mining them, being like the max miner. And every time someone wants to get some, you just buy it from them. You could literally have a monopoly on a cryptocurrency, which you can't have on a euro or again, there are 6,500 different types of cryptocurrency. Some are worth pennies upon pennies upon pennies upon the penny. Some of them are like 0.00005% of a penny.
So, speaking of these other cryptocurrencies, sometimes they're called altcoins, but my favorite is a lot of times they're just called shit coins, and I thought that was hilarious.
I'll be honest, I've never heard of shitcoin. I've only heard of altcoin.
It's basically a synonym with altcoin. So anything that's considered an altcoin can also be considered a shitcoin.
So a doggo coin is a shitcoin. Interesting.
Makes sense. I believe the term is Dogecoin.
Doge. I am messing up my words left and right today. But it is interesting how the newer generation, by newer generation, I say millennials and up, are all for it, and the older generation is not. Even Jimmy Buffett's against cryptocurrency, but a lot of innovators, I mean, depending on what side of the bed Elon Musk wakes up, he's either for or against, who can tell. And a lot of modern bankers who are rising up in the world are in favor of cryptocurrency, but the old generation is not. Granted, the reason why Jimmy Buffett doesn't really like it is because it's not regulated, and that's probably kind of why the new generation likes it, is because it's not regulated. It's a little bit more your fate in your own hands.
It's more, the fuck the establishment kind of, what would you call that? Like, the rebellious kind of younger generation, man, there's got to be a word for that. Anyway, I think it's something to do with that, whereas if you have all your money in some other system and someone's like, what if we try this new thing? I'd also be like, the fuck we do. I like being a millionaire. Personally, I don't know what it's like, but I imagine it's pretty sweet.
I hope to feel that feeling one day. And for a lot of people, when something like the governments of the world and banks are kind of against, I'm like, ooh, what is this thing that's possibly good for all humans that I might need to be involved with?
Yeah. Well, it is interesting too that it's cryptocurrency. It's not. I mean, there's some like what is it? The Venezuela has the Petro, which is their own cryptocurrency, but for the most part, they're not really tied to a nation. So it is like a global dollar that everyone is. There's no like exchange rate. And a Bitcoin in the United States is worth the same as a Bitcoin in Russia, and Ether in the U.S. is worth the same as an Ether in Turkey. I don't know if I'm naming countries that aren't allowed to use.
No, I think you so far named every country that still allows it. I mean, hell, some countries have now ATMs that operate via Bitcoin, which is so weird and so cool at the same time. And it's kind of really nice not having to worry about that currency thing. Having like a planetary global system of economy is kind of nice, just for exchange rates and buying things. Now, granted, it didn't really exactly work out for the European Union because, countries like Greece, but that's a conversation for another time. But having a currency that's easily available and usable across the world seems like a very beneficial thing to have. But a question to have is, there are things I don't understand how crypto works, and maybe you can help me with, Nick, is how do you deal with taxes and loans? Taxes, a lot of companies now are paying even their employees solely in cryptocurrencies, not paying them like a pay stub, but cryptocurrencies. You could use the blockchain, maybe, I'm not 100% sure, to verify what you're getting paid so the IRS knows, but it also seems like it's easier to hide, so maybe they don't know. So how do you declare taxes? And then loans is, I have no idea how loans would work with cryptocurrency.
Well, I don't know if this is going to answer your question, but so in cryptocurrency is treated just like property. Like you buy a house at 150,000, you sell it today at 7 times 700,000. Just kidding. The housing market's not that crazy, but it's pretty close. And you have to pay taxes on that. You have to pay your capital gains tax on your property. And Bitcoin, And cryptocurrency is the same way. However much you buy, you record what you buy, and then when you sell it, you have to pay your capital gains tax on that. Now, the question is, how do they monitor that? And that I don't know.
Because one or the other, the IRS always gets their money.
If you do a lot, yeah, if you do a lot of cryptocurrency exchange, you're supposed to register with the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, which is part of the Department of the Treasury, and so then they can monitor it that way. But I don't know I mean, like you said, they're going to get their money one way or another. So if you don't do it, they're going to make you do it, I imagine. But I don't know what's considered a financial or what's considered like a substantial amount.
Yeah, well, maybe because, like we mentioned, you can have contracts inside of cryptocurrency. Maybe the next generation of cryptocurrency because one way or the other, I don't see governments not getting involved into this. Maybe you could have a contract where every transaction based on where you are, a certain percentage of exchange rate goes to the government. So that's your taxes. Now, grant,
But what government is the question?
that's what I was going to point out. I thought it would be very interesting. You can maybe use like a VPN and you can switch where you are. So whatever government has the least amount of taxes, people switch their VPN and their IP address to that, which is a problem. Or maybe,
Or a solution if you don't want to pay taxes. Glass half full, glass half empty.
yeah, yeah. Or maybe simply you just, instead of charging $40.99 for a bag of chips at a gas station, you now charge $8. And now you don't have to pay income tax because now those taxes of that percentage of chips is split and goes to the government, or at least the industry that controls it. All right, so I'm kind of talking as I through this as I explain it. So bear with me. So say you go to a gas station. A couple of buddies are on a fishing trip. You're hungry. You're on the way. You stop, get some bag of chips and some water. Total cost is $5. Well, instead of having that be the $5, and then later on you pay income taxes on your overall salary, you now switch it up. So now you're paying $8 at that gas station, so higher upfront costs. But you don't have to pay. That's you paying for everything you buy in a year. So long term, for a person, if they don't spend a lot of money, they pay less taxes. If they spend more money, they pay more taxes, which you could argue makes people be more frugal. But anyhow, you pay.
I'm going to give you a compliment and an insult here, Mike. That's a really good idea. That's so good the government would never do it. That's so simple. You have to think way harder to come up with a worse solution.
Damn. Well, hang on. Let me fill up my glass and try that again. All right. How about we just have no more government taxes? How about we just yippee-ki-yay it? Everyone just trades and barters, no more taxes. Like if you want your street fixed, everyone's got to chip in to pay. Don't know. Seems like a terrible idea because taxes are beneficial.
And that was the last thing we heard from Mike.
No, but taxes and loans are important for a civilization. So it's really weird to me that I can't quite figure out a good way to do it with cryptocurrency.
I mean, wouldn't it be pretty similar? Just the currency would be different. Like if you're getting a loan, you'd be given that cryptocurrency and then be given back at the whatever rate. Now, the idea is, I think if we're at the point where cryptocurrencies are being used instead of the U.S. dollar or whatever currency you're using, it's not going to be this crazy up-down kind of situation. It's going to be a lot more stable currency. So I think it really would be pretty simple. Now, maybe it's not the banks giving, maybe it's somebody, I don't know, did the banks just get into crypto and it's essentially dealing with the same person?
Well, they are. The oldest bank in America, the New York, I can't remember their name, is starting crypto stuff. But you made me think of something, Nick, if I could pivot for just a second. Crypto, compared to normal fiat money, has much more fluctuation. Crypto is almost like the stock market. Some days it's high, some days it's low, changes all over the board, especially depending on who's talking. Cough, cough, Elon Musk, and Jeff Bezos, and Vladimir Putin, and Joe Biden, depending on if they're talking about it, tends to go down. But fiat currency tends to stay pretty consistent or low change. Cryptocurrency does level out quite quickly and fix. Like the current crash in the crypto market is there's actually quite a big conspiracy that a lot of whales crashed it a little bit so they can buy in low until it goes back up normal. But the ability to highly fluctuate it is a lot easier with crypto than it is with fiat money. I just want to throw that out there as a negative for crypto, that it's a lot more manipulative by the market rather than consistency.
Yeah, but I think over time, I've never undergone a change from one currency to another, but hypothetically, I imagine that's not a smooth transition.
It's
I imagine
painful.
that's normally a pretty aggressive transition, especially most times when there's a currency transition, there's usually a regime change. So, yeah, I imagine that's something that is probably pretty normal when you transition currency. And not that I'm saying that I think we'll transition currency. I think there's probably going to be both for a long time, but I don't know.
I thought you're saying changing currency via different countries, not entire country changing currency. My mistake, because changing countries kind of sucks by itself, because sometimes the change rate's like 10%, which is awful. Yeah, but I agree with you.
Yeah, and even though you're supposed to be getting the same value, it somehow feels like you're not.
Everyone's got to make money somehow. But no, I agree with you. I just kind of see cryptocurrencies being an acceptable form. Like you have a debit card, you have a credit card, you have cash, you have crypto card. I can see that being a real possibility. Like maybe an item you like what's the number you don't have to pay taxes on if giving a gift for a cash? It's like $63,948, something like that. It's a one-time gift offer for someone that you don't have to pay taxes for. Maybe it's like another one of those with cryptocurrency.
Yeah, and I think the big draw to cryptocurrency is that it's something that the government can't track. So I'm just curious of if we did make it like a national currency, if it would still have an appeal. Not that they can't track it, but it's currently not taxed. Or, well, if you're big enough, it's taxed.
Well, where I see it happening is each country either making their own crypto, like you said with Venezuela, or each republic, like the European Union, the UN, and what's the North American trade thingy called between
NAFTA?
NAFTA. All of those having their own cryptocurrencies, and then just have different exchange rates based on those different. Granted, I don't want the UN making cryptocurrency. That sounds like an awful idea. But yeah, having the European Union or the African Alliance or oh god, what's it called?
But this sounds like one slow morph into a central currency. You're taking the US dollar, the Canadian loonie. I forget exactly what their money's called, but I'm pretty sure that's one of them.
I'm pretty sure.
Pretty
they have
sure
a
that's
loonie.
one of them.
Yeah.
And then the peso and rolling them into one, and then kind of doing that geographically. So I imagine this is kind of the first step towards a global currency of some sort. I don't know. But if it seems like that's what we're talking about, is as the world transitions to this, that maybe this is the first step towards one currency. Globalization, what they say.
You know what is interesting, Nick? Speaking of globalization and one currency, you know what country wasn't on the ban list, but somehow I doubt they have any cryptocurrency?
North Korea.
God damn it, you beat me to it. Yeah. I don't think, does North Korea even have, I mean, they have electricity for their electric fences, but do they have electricity for
Do they
anything else?
even have currency?
Good question. Yeah, I don't know. I just love how countries that highly tax people don't like cryptocurrency, and countries that want to control their people don't have cryptocurrency. It seems
China.
well, yeah, that's a pig on LSD, which is scary, scary, scary. But it seems like cryptocurrency is just another form of investing. Like if you don't want your people to invest in gold, I would say that's very tyrannical. Having the ability to have different forms of currency, different forms of investment is up to you as an individual, not a entity. But God, Nick, I'm probably gonna get assassinated tonight.
Yep. I never knew you.
Yeah, but it's very funny to me how at first in America, I don't know if you remember this, Nick, but like in 2015, 2017, crypto was kind of a joke. Now it's something entire industries are based on. Entire servers, entire buildings, air conditioning, multi-million dollar investments, people making entire careers on telling you how to invest in Bitcoin, how to build certain computers to make it easier to run to collect Bitcoins. It's amazing how quickly things have changed.
Yeah, and I think that's. I mean, I can't imagine it's the first time an entire industry's popped up out of a joke someone made. But not that this is based off a joke, but everyone knew, that one guy who always talked about cryptocurrency, like what 5, 6 years ago, and we're like, everyone made fun of that guy, and now look what happened.
He's your rich uncle with a lot more money to deal with.
Yeah, someone can afford to buy a 2x4.
Yeah, I honestly don't know the future of cryptocurrency. If I had to make an educated guess, I would say all cryptocurrencies now will eventually die out and a new one will replace it. That will be a global accepted currency. I think these are the forefathers, the foundation of figuring shit out, what works and doesn't work. And I think by 2050 to 2070, a new cryptocurrency will come out that'll be much more solidified and accepted and universal.
And that currency is Dogecoin.
Ooh, I was thinking something with the flowers in it. I'll make my own cryptocurrency, but yeah. Also, I have no idea where to start, even how to come up with the idea of how to code cryptocurrency. That seems crazy. It's also crazy, Nick. There's things called pre-mining. I don't know if you're familiar with this. Yeah, pre-mining. It's a kind of a new fad in the newest cryptocurrencies, which I'm not a big fan of. So pretty much pre-mining is setting aside a large sum of the initial release of not Bitcoins, initial release of cryptocurrencies that you control and how you release them. So rather than being mined through the algorithms and mathematical formulas, it's literally the organization holding onto them, much like a bank, releasing the money where they want, kind of dripping it in. And it seems much more governmental agents to me. The pre-mining to me of, say, all right, so this is a hypothetical. Say you're going to release 100 NIC coins. And of these 100 NIC coins, you save 25% for your 15% for your company, 20% to go to your investors, and then 50% to go to wherever, and then the rest have to be mined. So other people don't get a chance at that crypto. So you're pretty much just making a facade money with no backing and no mathematical proofs. I'm not a big fan of pre-mining, as you can probably tell by my tones. I just thought it was so strange that the kind of common practice, especially in the U.S. I think there's like 2 or 3 cryptos that do it, that just seems so foreign and strange to me.
Yeah, but I feel like it's one of those things that because it's really hard to get, your chance of getting it, it makes it more valuable. And I mean, it's not saying it's going to be used as a crypto, more as a currency, but I think it's more of a collectible, like a crypto collectible than a cryptocurrency. Kind of like an NFT, I feel like, it's kind of just like, this is cool to have. I own this. There's no real application of this at all, but this is mine.
Oof, NFTs is a whole other conversation for another day, because that's a can of worms that kind of pisses me off. But another thing that's really interesting, like we said, a lot of cryptocurrencies can't be remade once they're lost. Well, we mentioned it in a different episode of Space Debris. We should go check out Backyard Philosophy or anywhere else on the podcast. What happens if there is giant satellite crashes? The tumbling effect that just ruins all the low Earth orbits. So you can't get on the internet. You can't trade anymore. I mean, with hard currency, that would still last for at least a short while of being able to trade and barter. And solid currency, like gold and silver, would still be able to trade and borrow. But cryptocurrency is solely an internet-based. It's solely digital. Its only existence as long as the electricity and the internet is still running, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, but at the same time, most people don't have that much cash on hand. Most people rely on their debit credit card, and maybe they have like what's in their wallet, anywhere between $0 to $100. So how long is that really going to last? I think everything is pretty reliant on the internet. I think if the internet comes down, I think humanity's least concern, I mean, it's a reasonable concern of how we're going to transfer wealth. but I think the bigger concern is going to be how is power distributed, shit like that, more so than
I can
so many problems.
I can tell you how distributed wealth is going to work with no internet. Who's got more bullets?
Yeah, so cryptocurrency may be the only thing during the pandemic that gained more value than ammunition.
Ooh, I didn't think about that. I don't know if that to be true, but I that
It
sounds
sounds right.
quite right. Yeah,
Ammunition,
yeah, that
lumber,
sounds right.
cryptocurrency, the big
Three
three.
important things, right? Three such very different things.
I want to build my
All,
house. I want to be protected from the government. I don't want them to see how much money I make.
oh, you could take that crypto to build a house the government doesn't know about to store your ammunition you don't want the government to know about.
Well, that's the American dream right there.
Oh. I got a little hot in here, Nick, me saying that steamy sentence.
And dead. Just like that, dead.
Why are all these red lasers pointing at me?
Your cat's going fucking nuts in your apartment right now.
Oh, but this is kind of a loaded question because even I don't know if I have an answer for it. But if you could possibly think of a way to make cryptocurrency more protective, more secure, how, or at least have a different feature to it, like Bitcoin doesn't have the contract like some cryptocurrency has, so you can add that variable of, hey, if he doesn't pay on the time, he doesn't get this amount of money. What other feature would you want to add to a cryptocurrency to you personally, Nick? Like yeah, like I don't know, like would you want your cryptocurrency to be like a biometric scan so only person with your hand can use it or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's just like anything. You're going to put valuable things in a safe. You'd have to have some way to protect it. That's not some fucking password you got to change every 3 months. So you just do, a different letter or a different number at the end every year. They have cold wallets, right, where you can put your crypto into, and then it kind of takes it out of the, if you're not going to spend it for a long time, you can put it in this place that doesn't. I mean, you can't. It won't be lost or stolen. So that's one thing. But I don't know. I mean, biometrics maybe. I mean, I think the biggest part for me is it's something like, and it doesn't make any sense because it's not that much different than a normal bank. I have money in a bank account that I don't have, but I also have reserve cash on hand. Definitely not in my house or robbers. But I have physical stuff I can hold in my hands. Like you're saying, maybe it's not the entire internet goes down, but there's some kind of emergency or something. I still have cash. I don't know how that works with crypto. Can I have reserve crypto I can keep on hand in case of emergency?
Well, maybe on a flash drive or something like that. But again, if the internet and electricity goes out, not really. I that is a tricky one. I for me personally, one thing I would like is to have a more complex ledger. So with the ledger system, how it works is so you have multiple people processing the information across the world. So there's different time zones, different areas, different computing power, different internet, a lot of different variables. So it's I'm not exactly remembering how it sorts out who gets they choose the ledger, like so you don't accidentally double spend. But all those people who were close but no cigar to get the page in the ledger, maybe have offsets of that page, so that way you could double back and correct the ledger in the past if something happens. Like say there is a 51% attack, you could go back to the ledger and change that. But I don't know if it's possible to change the ledger. Like I don't know if you can go back and change like a modern bank. Oh, this person accidentally deposited twice as amount money that they said right on the check. We're gonna give this other half back because we can't accept it. I don't think there's a way to do that with cryptocurrencies, which is good and bad. Not quite sure. But Nick, I don't expect you to know this question, but this is just me throwing it out there. The ledger is like 108 gigs right now. You can again read the ledger's public. Where's the ledger stored? What server is hosting the ledger for Bitcoin?
Isn't it a collection of servers? There's different nodes that are all linked together. So if you take out one node, it's all backed up on the other ones, from what I understand. So it's not in a centralized location. It's decentralized.
That works. That makes me happy. I like that, having fail safes. But yeah, for anyone listening, unless you have anything more to say, Nick.
Nope. That's as much as I know about Bitcoin.
For anyone listening, we would love to hear your ideas on how to improve cryptocurrency, like features you would want to add into the cryptocurrency. This was a...
How do I use this to not pay taxes? Asking for a friend.
Yeah, but there's cryptocurrencies, I think, here to stay, and I would like to hear how we can improve on it. And if they want to tell us where to improve upon it, where could they find us, Nick?
You can find us on YouTube and Instagram at Backyard Philosophy Podcast, and let us know what you think. Before we get out of here, though, Mike, what are you reading?
I am still reading Napoleon by Andrew Roberts. Unfortunately, I haven't had much time, so I am still in the first quarter of the book, and I am slowly marching through. What about you, Nick? What are you reading?
Also, still reading Sex, Death, and Fly Fishing, hoping to finish it and got some traveling coming up and get to the next book. But it's still really good. Still highly recommend it. John Gierach, good author if you like fishing stories. So that narrows it down to about 4 people. But would recommend.
Again, you can find us on Instagram or YouTube, but you won't find us on Twitter because it's a dumpster fire, and apparently you won't find crypto on those sites either.
Speaking of which, crypto is blocked from advertising on Twitter and Facebook and a lot of other social medias, which I thought was weird.
That's hilarious.
Thanks for listening to the Backyard Philosophy Podcast. We rarely finish a podcast without missing a point we wanted to bring up, so let us know what we forgot. And if you have a topic you want us to talk about, let us know at Backyard Philosophy